Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for coming by again. We're doing a beautiful painting of actually a sailing ship, a nice wooden boat, sailing ship, sailboat, and some water. We're going to use tons of water, tons of beautiful colors in this painting. I'll show you everything from A to Z, the whole enchilada, how to create this painting. We're using the glazing technique. I'll show you how to mix all of your colors first in your palette so that once you get your painting started, you won't have to worry about mixing colors. We're going to mix all our colors first. That's one of the keys to watercolor, especially the glazing technique. If you want to get a quick painting done fast, and which is really great with watercolors, that's your key. You get your paints mixed quick, get them in the palette, all the colors you need, get your drawing done quickly. We're going to show you how to draw, and we're also going to show you how to draw using a tracing method. So in this video, you're going to learn a great tracing method, how to use some acetate, which is basically plastic film that you can set over the top of your phone, over a magazine, over a watercolor book, over any type of, iPad. Even you can use your computer screen or your TV, whatever it is. You can use plastic tracing method with Sharpie marker to get some great results with drawing. If you're not 100% confident with your drawings, you can do some tracing first until you get up to speed, and we'll talk about how to practice your drawing skills on this video too. So we're going to cover a little bit of everything. We're going to answer questions. People, many of my artists that follow me on my channel, they'll ask me questions. So here on this video, I will answer a number of questions I've seen recently in the comments section. So thank you so much for sending your comments in to me, because I listen to your comments. I'm writing them down a little more now. I'm getting a little more organized with my notes. I'm going to start writing down all your questions, and this way I can put them into the videos. The questions that you need answered, I'll put them into the videos as we work. So you just do your part, keep following along with me here on my videos, and I will get your questions answered in the videos themselves, and you'll be waiting for them, and you'll see them as they appear as we go through our paintings here on my channel. So this is an extreme beginners video. So this is going to be more or less a beginner style video where I'm going to use my beginners tools, which are basically synthetic brushes. I'll cover that in the video too, what brushes I'm using, what pencil I'm using, and the whole enchilada. All right, so strap in, have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, some water, some soda, whatever you like to drink. Grab your favorite drink with you and set it aside here, and we're going to get all our gear together, our paints, our paper, our brushes, and we'll start another fantastic painting, okay? All right, we'll be right back. All right, so we just saw the finished painting, and we're actually going to get started here with the process of how we're going to create a nice, small painting. We're not going to get too large with our paper and our actual window size for our mat. So basically what I did is, I always mention this on my videos, if you can, try to pick up some pre-cut mats. You can get them online on Amazon or on any art supply store online. Or you can go out to your art supply, hobby shops, anything like that, and you'll find that they'll always have mats like this. These are pre-cut mats. Basically, they fit perfectly inside predetermined frame sizes. So really, when you buy a pre-cut mat like this, you're basically going to have a perfectly laid out design of your painting and the size of your frame. So this happens to be a 10-inch. So this is a, this is a 8 by 10. So this is an 8 by 10 mat. And then the window size, let's see if I can, the window size for the mat is 4.5 approximately. 4.5 by about 6.5. So 4.5 by 6.5 is the window size, and then you have a 8 by 10 frame size. So an 8 by 10 frame, and you have your mat size in here. So if you buy these and you just have just a few of them, you just buy like maybe 3 or 4 different sizes, and then whenever you start a painting, you just make sure you use this window opening for your size of your painting. But you're always going to want to make that that painting that you're going to create or that composition a little bit larger. So let's show you how you do that. So, okay, so step one was, you picked up some of these pre-cut mats. You don't have to buy a lot, maybe 2 or 3 sizes, whatever size you like to work in. This is like a like a medium size, kind of a small to medium size frame and window opening. And then you just take a pencil, very simply. You take a pencil and you just make a tiny dot. You hold the mat down on your paper, so your paper should be at least, as big as the frame size, or if it's a little larger, that's okay too. And then what you do is you make a little dot on each of the corners here of your mat opening. Then you lift up your mat like that, and you put it to the side. And then the next thing you're going to do is really just try to make maybe your painting about maybe maybe an inch larger, half inch even, or about, let's say an inch larger each way. 1 inch higher this way, and then 1 inch larger this way. And then you go over here to the other dot you made, a little tiny dot on the paper, and you say 1 inch up, and then 1 inch out to the side. So you're just making your window opening a little larger. Then you come down here and do the same thing. We made our dots on our paper where the corners of that window opening was on the mat. And then you just go out this way, 1 inch, make a line, and you go down this way 1 inch. And the same thing over here. You're going to go out this way to the right. So you're going to actually enlarge this whole painting by 1 inch. So this way, when you set your mat down on the paper, after you've created your painting and your composition on here, you can drop your mat on the paper and you can move it around a little bit to get a little bit of a better perfect spot. You can kind of have fun with it when you look at your painting, and we're going to do that later. We're going to finish our painting, and then we're going to put our mat on top and move it around and see where the best spot is. Sometimes you really be surprised moving around that mat just a little bit here and there, a little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit up, a little bit down. You'll see that you can make your painting even more exciting and more interesting by doing that. So let's continue here. So all we have is one more dot to make here. Let's go down 1 inch below. So great, we have all of our dots created. So now we're just going to put our ruler across those dots that we made, 1 inch larger every direction, like that. We'll do it down here too. Cross this way. Then we'll go over here, drop the ruler over here. And again, our original dot was here, and we moved it out 1 inch this way, and we moved it up 1 inch this way. And then we just line up those dots that we made, those little tiny dots on the paper. And then we do that. And then now we have most of it completed. And then we just have 2 more lines here. And then again, we went from this tiny dot, which was the inside of our mat like this. We lift it up, we have that dot there, and then we're just going up 1 inch and out 1 inch. And that makes our whole window opening 1 inch larger in every direction. So that basically we end up with a larger area that we can paint in, and then we have enough room that we have a comfortability of moving our mat around, and we have enough painting on there. If you were to paint it exactly the size of the window opening of the mat, then you wouldn't have any wiggle room to move around. So now you can kind of see here, we made our dots right there. Then when we lift up, the dots are here, but we have everything 1 inch larger around the whole window opening. So that now we can drop the mat on later and move it around. We have plenty of painting on there. What I'm saying is you don't want to have only a little bit of extra painting outside of your borders of that window of that mat. You want to have a good inch on every direction. So now that we've done that, the next thing we can do is, no one's ever going to probably see these little dots, but we can lift them up a little bit with an eraser. So you can erase your dots that you made, your original, make them very barely visible. Just make them enough so you can see them when you start. And then you can just go back and just lightly erase them, but there shouldn't be much there anyway. We don't want to make too dark of a dot for our original layout here of our window. And then these are good. These lines are fine. And then we just take some artist tape. And we could take any artist tape we want. Let's use my green frog tape. Is this frog tape? Yeah, this is frog tape. You can get this at any major big box store like Home Depot, Lowe's, Great tape. Professional painters use this tape to tape off anything like windows, doors, trim, anything like that, and it doesn't stick. See how it just lifts right up real easy, and it won't rip your paper up. It'll really do a great job of lifting right off the paper once you're done. Once you're done painting, it'll just lift right off the paper, and you don't have to worry. It's not going to tear the paper apart. Sometimes you'll buy masking tape or something, and it just absolutely tears your watercolor paper apart to pieces, and I've had that happen to me numbers of years ago. When I first started, I didn't realize I could go out and shop around and get some different tapes, and that's what I did now. I'm shopping around and finding out that there's some great tapes out here, and this frog tape works. It's just incredible. So you never go wrong with some green frog tape. This is like the perfect, probably the perfect tape for watercolors, the green tape. They make a purple tape, which I have. Now this purple tape's, it's great too. So either the purple or the green. I think the green's the purple frog tape. Well, this is actually Scotch tape. So Scotch makes the purple tape. Purple is excellent too. So Scotch tape, the purple, perfect, or the green frog tape. Either of these, just incredible. Some of you may not like the colors around your border of your painting, and that's okay. If you don't like that, then you'll have to invest in some Pro drafting tape. Pro drafting tape is an excellent quality tape. I find that this won't tear your paper up either, but you have to find whatever tape is available. Some people tell me when they write in the comments section that they can't always find good quality items online or in their countries that they live in. So we have people from all around the world that tune in here on our channel here. So think about how fun that is. Everybody in the world, around the world, is kind of all together with us here. We're all painting, and some people, you know, kind of let me know, hey Chris, I can't always get good paper, or I can't get good brushes, or I can't get good paints, whatever it is. So we're all fortunate here. I know a lot of times in the United States we don't realize how lucky we have it, but there's art stores everywhere, and online usually you can find everything too. So, but in any case, let's keep moving forward here. We got our tape down. And and you saw how we did a beautiful, really fun painting with tons of water. That's what we're going to do here. Tons of water and beautiful washes. And we're going to do it fast. And it's not going to be a long production here. We're going to get this painting done within probably a half an hour, 45 minutes. And that's the whole point I guess I wanted to make here, is you can have a ton of fun with watercolor, just exploiting the beautiful colors and the wet washes and the lots of water on your paper, and having fun with it. You'll notice that the more fun you have with watercolor and just enjoying it, it comes out better. If you're kind of stressed out, you're going to see that in your painting. Always remember that. Whatever you're feeling and your emotions that you're, when you're creating your artwork, that shows through in your actual painting. It does. It really does. So, and I heard many great artists say that. So if you're having fun and just having a good attitude and saying, hey, you know, I'm just going to have fun doing my watercolor, no matter what level you're at, if you're just starting or if you've been painting a couple years, just take the attitude of having some fun with it. Even if you do some small compositions, you know, you don't have to feel like you have to paint big paintings or anything like that, or, anything, create whatever size you want. If you want to paint small, paint small. If you want to paint large paintings, paint large paintings. But the main thing is have fun with it. Get that water and paint on there, have a good time of it, and that's what's going to look really good. It doesn't matter if your skills are just starting out, you're just having basic skills, or whether you've been painting many years. As long as you're having fun and taking that attitude, your painting will look good. I promise you that. So let's see this in action. All right, so we're going to come back now in just a second. We'll do our sketch first, we'll wet our paper, and we'll start putting some watercolor paints on there, and you'll see what I'm saying, that let's have some fun. It'll look good. Okay? All right. Be right back. Okay, so we're going to get back here and continue on with our process. We have all of our watercolor papers set up with our painter's tape, our frog tape, our 3M tape. So we have a beautiful border that we can peel off, and we have a beautiful, crisp frame around our watercolor paper without even having to add a mat to it or anything like that. Just having some tape around your paper when you paint your compositions, and your painting's going to look beautiful. When you peel off that tape, it's going to look awesome. And then again, we did make it though. We did make our tape larger than our mat opening so that when we peel off our tape and we're done painting, we could take our mat and put it down and move it around. And you can kind of see you have lots of room to move your mat around to find that perfect spot that you like. As an artist, you'll decide when you're moving this mat around, where does it look just right, where your boat looks just right in the water and everything. And you'll do that when you're going to pick up these pre-cut mats. Okay, so now the next thing is let's get our drawing started. So we're going to pick up our pencil and we're going to say, okay, let's make a really nice boat. So I'll make a boat maybe about, maybe I'll sit it about a third up from the bottom of this rectangle. So we have our rectangle here. And then if you need to measure it, that's fine too. You can take your tape measure or ruler and say, okay, I have about 8 inches here from top to bottom. So I want to make that 1/3. So if you divide, well, you can even say it's 9 inches. Stretch it out a little bit and say, okay, well, that's easy. 9 inches is 3 inches each way. So we'll go 3 inches up from the bottom. And that is our, sort of like our water line, our horizon line for our distant ocean. And then we're going to have our sailboat. We're going to make a beautiful sailboat right about here. Let's kind of put it somewhat in the center. And what I'm going to do is just kind of draw what I'm thinking is going to look good. I'll put the sailboat right about here. Keep it close. I'm going to keep it centered on the horizon line. And I'll make a light pencil line going across this way. Like that. And I'm going to make some little bit of suggestive lines where the reflections of this beautiful sailboat is going to, wooden sailboat's going to come down into the water. Just a little bit of suggestive pencil lines just to say, okay, Chris, this is where I'm putting these reflections from this sailboat down into the water. So I know where it is. The bottom of the boat's here. We're going to have the reflection of the boat in the water. The same width of the boat is going to be our reflection. So it's basically like a mirror. So as you go, you'll notice that that the boat is going to look pretty much like the same reflecting down into the water. And then here, let's make some rigging and things. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can take a small ruler. You can use my sketch here as a guide for you so that you can and I'll show you another way to do this. If you're not happy with this, I'll give you another option, which is pretty cool. Let's try that option next. But right now, I'm just going to use a ruler to get my mast on my boat here up, kind of like straight, pretty much like that. And then we're going to have another bit of rigging this way and a mast over this way. A little bit lower, like that. This one's up a little higher. This one's about here. And then we're going to have one more coming up this way toward this here. So if I can imagine, it's going to attach to the top of this mast this way, the rigging lines. I do that. And I have a nice setup here for my sails. And then I'm going to do my sails. And when I do my sails, of course, I want to just do them fun, kind of quickly. I don't want to take too much time, like kind of suffering over these. I want to get them halfway decent. And this one goes there like that. This one goes down here. This one comes up here. Like that. This one comes down like this. This one goes like this. Down into the boat area. Into the area of the boat, the center of the boat. Not quite the center, but that's about close. And then this one over here, some rigging there. And there's another bit of, And then we have a couple lines here, a couple rigging lines like that. Okay, not too fancy, just quick. Okay, you saw how I did that, pretty quick. Pretty quick, pretty fun, pretty loose. I'm not getting too worried. Just one beautiful sailing boat right here in the center of our painting. Like that. The next thing is, if you're saying, some people say, Chris, some people write into the comment section and say, Chris, I can't draw. I'm having a really hard time drawing, sketching, and that's totally understandable. If you're just starting out in watercolor, you're not going to know how to draw or sketch at all. That's obvious, no problem. I started the same way too. When I first started, I started out stick figures, the whole 9 yards. So it's just a matter of maybe you work 10, 15 minutes every day. Just get a sketch pad, buy a sketch pad with maybe 100 or 200 sheets in there, and just draw one thing a day for 5, 10 minutes. 5, 10 minutes a day, draw an apple, draw a pear, draw a pencil, draw a paintbrush. Each day you draw one thing. Draw a window, maybe draw different things like that, simple things, You might want to draw a door. You might want to draw a table, simple things, and draw them in 2 dimensions. That's what I always kind of want to emphasize. If I can. I'm trying to find some scrap paper, but if you can draw in 2 dimensions, that's really great. So if you want to draw a table, you draw a table in 2 dimensions like this. Like that. And then you have it. You have a table. You just drew a table. Looks good. 2 dimensions. 2D. 2 dimensions. And then maybe an apple. You draw an apple. Maybe a little bit of a shadow. You can draw an apple like that with a stem. There you go. So you draw a table and an apple for like 5, 10 minutes in 2 dimensions. Don't worry about adding angles to it. 2 dimensions. And you do that 5, 10 minutes every day, and you're going to be surprised. Wow, you're going to really make a lot of progress. You're going to draw maybe a paintbrush. We'll draw a paintbrush. You just draw a straight line. Straight line this way, like that. Then you draw another straight line here, another straight line there. Then you draw some hairs of the brush like that. And you just do a little shading for fun. Maybe a little shading in here for fun. Maybe a little shadow here for fun too. A little shadow under the brush, like that. So then you're kind of feeling like you're adding some shadows to your work, which looks good. And there you have it. So you can do simple 2-dimensional things. You can draw a window, basically draw a window, and then say, okay, well, when I draw a window, I'm going to need to divide it probably in half most times. You have a halfway point for your window. And then maybe you have like 3 panes in the window. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. So within 5 or 10 minutes, you can draw a table, a window, an apple, a paintbrush, and that's it. And that's all you need to do. And you just do that 5, 10 minutes every day. You'll start to get the hang of it. That's all it really is just practicing it over and over and over again. If you draw all of these things for 1 month, 5 minutes every day, by the end of the month, you're going to be able to really draw these really well because you're kind of used to it. You're in the flow of things. You're always going to kind of know, okay, I'm ready to do my table. There we go. Window, I'm going to do a window with 3 panes each side, top and bottom side. I'm going to draw an apple. Maybe you're going to draw a pear like this, a pear with a stem, a little bit of a shadow underneath it, scribble a little shadow under there. Have fun with it. Have fun when you do your sketches and your drawings. That's the thing. Just have fun with it. Don't suffer over it. Don't worry about it. Don't keep saying to yourself, oh, I'm never going to learn to draw. Quite the opposite. Just say, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to draw an apple. I'm going to draw a pear. I'm going to draw a window. I'm going to draw a table. Have a good time with it. Just do it 5 minutes only maybe. But 5 minutes every day, believe me, adds up a lot. After a couple months, you're going to be surprised how easy it is to draw these items if you just did these few items here. And then you can find other items that you like to draw. I'm just kind of showing you what I might like to draw. But trust me, you draw 5 or 10 minutes every day on a piece of printer paper, or if you get a little sketchbook, you'll be surprised. You'll really make a ton of progress. And then again, if you wanted to create a painting like this and you said, oh, Chris, I don't know how to do it, you could take your phone. I've done this numerous times if I have to. Like if I'm creating something for somebody, like a painting for somebody, like that needs a professional, something like an illustration that they might use for like a brochure for their business. I've done work for people that have businesses and they need me to draw brochures and things and come up with creative ideas. What I do is if I'm not familiar with the subject matter, let's say, like I've never drawn a boxer or, something like that. I did one time, I did a poster for a martial arts center, and I didn't know how to draw a martial artist boxing, so I had to look up this stuff online, and then I used acetate, which is basically a plastic film. You can find this online, acetate, or you can also find sometimes around the house, you'll find some plastic that you can use with packaging and things, and you just put it over the phone or your computer. You might take a little bit of tape, put some tape on top of your phone with the plastic so it doesn't move, and then you just take some black magic marker and you trace over whatever you need to trace, like this. So I'm tracing this boat right now, this sailing ship. Then you can lift that off the phone like this, put it on the paper, and you can kind of see how that works. I now have a perfectly drawn sailboat, sailing ship, by tracing it on plastic. And then all you have to do is tape it down to your paper, lift up the plastic, and you can start drawing over the top. Let me see if I can do that with this. Like that. So you tape down your plastic, and then you just start right here, and you hold down your plastic, and you just start tracing it. Like that. You just kind of keep lifting it up. Look how good that looks. And there you have it. So if you do have challenges and you're not quite up to speed on your drawing yet, it takes time, takes years to get really good at drawing. Don't worry about it. If you need to do a painting like this and you really want to make it beautiful and perfect, and you don't want to wait 5 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, get your phone, get your computer, TV, whatever it is. You could do this from magazines, books. Take your acetate or your any kind of plastic, put it over your subject, tape it down so it doesn't move around, and you use some Sharpie marker like this, some permanent marker, black permanent marker, and you just trace over your subject matter, whether it's a boat, a cabin, flowers, whatever it is, and you lift it up, and then you have a perfect rendering of your boat or your flowers or your house or your building, whatever you would like to draw. Pets, cats, dogs, you can do portraits like that. Same thing. You can do all these things by simply tracing if you have to. Until you get up to speed and you practice many years, you might need to do that once in a while, especially if someone hires you to do a project. All right, so let's take another break. Sorry to kind of go off on these rabbit trails, but a lot of people always ask me about how do I draw better? How can I create good drawings if I don't have any drawing skills? Well, you can always trace in the beginning when you're just starting out so that you can get some really cool paintings going. And then, you keep practicing 5-10 minutes every day, and then eventually you won't need to trace. You'll just wind up drawing it because you kind of have the feel for it. But believe me, don't worry about tracing in the beginning. If you want to trace with plastic and magic marker, and it's great. You can just take your plastic when you're done with one painting. You take a little bit of, this happens to be Goof Off, which is like a paint remover, stain remover. takes off asphalt, adhesive, glue, dried paint, all that kind of stuff. You take a little bit of this on a tissue or a paper towel, and you can just wipe off that black permanent marker like that, and you can reuse your plastic acetate over and over hundreds of times, thousands of times. You know, all you have to do is buy it once, and you can literally use this thousands of times to trace from whatever subject matter you want, from whatever medium you want. Again, you can trace magazine clippings, watercolor books. Maybe you'll use my watercolor book. I wanted to mention to you, I have my new watercolor book out. And if I can find it here, I will put it on the screen. I don't know. I might have to wait for a few minutes until I can go get that, but let's take a break anyhow. But you can kind of see how you can have some workaround techniques and methods to getting your drawings done. If you're not 100% up to speed right now on your drawing, you can trace and do it that way until you feel comfortable that you can really draw things in, you know, to your satisfaction. Okay, but we have this in pretty good. Let's do the painting next. I'll be right back. All right, now's the fun time. We're going to actually get our painting started here. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to make sure we have clean, fresh, clean water. So I'll take my glass here, and I'm just going to use a fan brush here. I use a fan brush like this. I just make sure I get all the sediment out of the bottom of the glass, and then I dump that out in a bucket. And then what I do is I usually use some drawer liner or something kind of like soft with some traction to it. I set that up on top of my my table so that nothing slides around or moves around. And I'll just tape that down. So I tape that down usually. So I just tape that down a little bit. You might not see that. That's outside the camera. Maybe I'll back my camera up just a touch there. Then I'll put my glass up here with my water, fresh, clean water. And I'm going to use my sponge to check off water. So you'll always hear me talking about, you know, checking off water off your brush. You want to make sure you take water off your brush as you're working, because that can really create problems when you have too much water on your paper or too much water in your palette when you're mixing your colors. So that's an important thing. Have your sponge or some paper towels stacked up a little bit so you can check some water off. I use my apron sometimes too. Then I'll take some water, fresh clean water. I put that in my glass, and that's all you need to start with. And then, of course, we're going to use our normal kind of brushes we use all the time on my channel for the extreme beginners like we're doing here. I'm using my Princeton Art and Brush Company. This comes stock with a 6-pack set with different size brushes. And then this is a larger one I bought on its own, 1-inch Princeton Art and Brush Company flat brush for large washes. We'll do that here. And then I have my Prang Oval 16 watercolor set. Comes with a beautiful round, nice pointy round brush. So that comes with this. We'll use this too as well. And I also bought an extra Simply Simmons number, I think it's a number 6 or I think it's a number 6 round brush. And that comes in handy too to make some nice fine details. So you have a good arsenal here of brushes, 2 good large and medium sized flat brushes, and a couple good round brushes, a smaller one and then a little bit of a larger round brush. They're all synthetic brushes, which are perfect for beginners in watercolor, and that's how we'll get this painting done. So the first thing we do, we're going to take our water, get our brush loaded up with water, and then we're going to go in and we're going to mix our watercolors first. Then we'll go in and start working on our painting. So let's get our colors worked out first. So the first thing we'll do is we'll say, what are we going to kind of do here with our colors? Well, we're going to make a beautiful blue sky with some orange, some warmth to it. So that's some purple, some blue. So I'm going to mix some blue down here. Some more blue down here. Kind of a Prussian blue down here, a Prussian blue look. And then some French ultramarine kind of blue up here. I'm kind of talking in terms of colors that I'm very familiar with. But you don't have to really worry if you're using the Prang Oval 16 set. You'll kind of be able to see that this is like a kind of like a navy blue. And this one here is kind of like a turquoisey, a tiny bit like, kind of like a navy blue with a little bit of green in it, like a little bit of turquoise color to it. And maybe we'll add some of that green here, which does make that quite green, which looks good. So we're going to have that, some blue, some orange and purple, and some grayish colors too. Grays look perfect, so you have some orange and purple. Makes a beautiful grayish color for like that cloudy, rainy, maybe some rain clouds or something in the sky. Make lots of exciting colors for your sky washes and your water. All right, so we have that completed. So we mixed some colors here for our sky and our water for the most part. And then next, we're going to actually make some darks for our boat. So let's make some browns and greens. So we have brown here and green. Let's mix up a brown and a green. Brown and green. You can mix up two of the greens and one brown there. And that gives us a nice kind of olivey green. That looks pretty good. Maybe that's a little bit of this green here too to mix in there. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little more like that, a little more medium green, like a leaf green or like a lighter green like that. And what else do we have? And then we want a brown. Yeah, we want a brown or darker color for the boat. So let's go with blue and brown. Brown, blue. So blue, brown, maybe a little bit of orange. We use the same orange. Brown, and then blue. Maybe a little bit of purple in that too. Get it a little bit darker. A little bit of red, like that, red. And brown. Okay, so we made a nice kind of reddish brown, like that. We have our greens and we have our blues over here for the sky and the water. I think you're going to be very happy with these colors that we just mixed up. So don't be afraid to slow down this video, maybe hit pause, maybe rewind a little bit, try to get your colors mixed up like we just did here. So, kind of maybe take notice again, we used, for this blue here, down here, we use more or less this lighter blue, which is kind of like a Prussian blue, with a little bit of the green, like Viridian green, like a cooler green here. Then for this section here, we use some of the, more or less like a navy blue or a French ultramarine blue here. Then here we made a mixture of orange and blue to give us a nice grayish kind of color, which we can kind of make a beautiful wash with that too, mixing it in with all the other colors. And then we had some of the darker washes here, which are going to be the boat, which is kind of a greenish color for the shadows. And then our orange and brown and red and blue, kind of like just a good dark, like that. And that's going to be for our sails and the boat, the actual wood boat itself. So you can kind of see we've got our colors mixed up now, and that's all you need to do. When you start out doing watercolor paintings, you want to make it go as smooth as possible, and the best way to make things go smooth as possible is get your colors mixed first. You don't have to worry. Once you mix your colors in your palette, you're all set. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You've got it all there. Then all you have to do is just start painting and get it onto your paper quickly, and then everything else just flows real nicely, and you kind of already know. And if you have to make some notes for yourself, you could do that too. If you kind of maybe aren't sure, where's everything going to go onto the paper as you're working, by all rights, you could take a piece of paper and put it next to your palette over here on the left side of your palette, like a strip of paper, maybe like you could maybe fold a piece of printer paper in half. That might work. where you fold a piece of paper in half like this, and then set it alongside your palette, and then you could kind of write down on your palette where you're going to use everything. So this would be the boat, and then this would be the boat reflection, and then this could be the sky, and this could be the sky and the sky and water, sky and water. So you could scratch some notes next to your palette if you have to with a piece of paper that, like, you know, next to it, if you need to. I'm not saying you have to do that, but if that helps you, that might work too. Again, I've been painting a long time, 15 or 20 years, and I started when I was really young as a young boy painting too, so I have a little bit of experience and hands-on experience when I was very young painting and stuff. So, you know, I don't want to take it for granted that you know all the tips and tricks and little things that I've used over the years. I want to show you everything I can that's going to help you to create better watercolors. So I'm going to empty this water now to get fresh, clean water. Typically, when you mix all your paints in your palette, your water is going to be really muddy and murky. You don't want that. You want to, once you're done mixing all your colors, then you empty your water bucket and put fresh, clean water in there. You have to have that when you do the first wash that we're going to start in just a second. So I'm going to take a quick break, and you're not even going to notice I'm going to take a break because I just usually shut the camera off and then I turn the video camera right back on in a second or two. So you don't have to really worry about that, but I am going to take a break. When we come back, now we're going to start the painting right away, okay? All right, so I'll be right back. Okay, let's get started. We're going to actually, the most important part of this phase right now of our painting is making sure we have fresh, clean water. Even when I do this, I clean my brush like this. You can kind of see after all that mixing of paint over here, mixing our washes over here, even when I clean my brush, that's not going to be so great. So you can see how muddy water gets just with even cleaning our brush here. Let's empty that. Okay, I'm out of water right now, so I have to go get a bottle of water. Be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I have my fresh, clean water, bottled water. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take that fresh, clean water, and we're just going to coat the paper. So you just take your fresh, clean water and just start flowing it onto the paper. Just like this. This is going to be so fun. You can't believe how fun this is actually, doing this method of the wet on wet method. So we're using the glazing technique or the wet on wet method, you know, wet and wet. Just using a lot of water and getting the paper good and soaked with water. Get it on there. Go up and down, side to side, all the way across. Make sure it's good. Coated with water the whole way. And now we're going to let that sit for a few seconds. So what you want to do is you want to actually let the water start to really soak into the paper. So if you let this sit for about a minute or two, and we'll kind of sit here and let it sit and dry a little bit, you'll see it gets quite, it soaks into the paper, the water as we put it on. And then what we want to do is, once this kind of soaks in, we want to get another coating of water on top of this, and that's when we're going to start mixing our washes onto the paper, and you'll see how good that looks. And then what I always do is I always have a tissue on hand, and I'm going to lift up any puddles of water at the bottom of the paper here. So you'll always notice I'm going to lift up the puddles of water at the bottom here as we're working on this painting, because naturally my board is a little bit on an incline, so I'm working on a touch of an incline. It might only be about an inch, inch and a half at the top of my board here. So it's a 2x4 underneath my board here that I'm working on. I'm working on a masonite board, and then I have some foam board on top of that. So, and it's about like an inch and a half tilt this way, going down. So the water always tends to just slightly trickle down this way on my paintings. Okay, so now we've let that soak in a little bit. Let's get a little more water. And now you can see we're going to get more water on here and kind of work it on down. And then now at this point, you're really going to see how great this looks. I add a little bit of extra water to the top of the paper here. And then we're going to go in and get our sky washes and just watch how good that looks. Doesn't that look great? Get all those colors on there. Make it darker at the top, like so. Make it darker up here. Like that. Make it dark up top. But let that water flow down just like that. Then what you do is, as that water is flowing down, you rinse off your brush, dry off some of that water on the sponge, like that. So your brush is damp only. And then you just basically want to blot up some of the puddles. You don't want too many puddles on there, so you blot up some of the puddles that are forming at the bottom here. And that's not a problem, trust me. You can blot up the bottom half of your painting. And then what you do is you let this flow on down, and you kind of help it on down with your brush, like so. Like that. And that's it. Look how good that looks. And you just slowly smooth that wash right down to the bottom of the page. Does that not look great? You can always lift up a little bit of paint and then smooth a little more like that. The only thing is you only have a little bit of time to work. Now I have to let this go. I don't want to do anything more. If anything, I just add a little more dark wash up here to the top. The top of your sky is always going to be a little darker. So I'm lifting, you can see I'm picking up that paint that we mixed. Like that, like that. You could drop a little bit of water on there too, splash a little bit of water on there, let it flow on down. Look how good that looks, right? You could also add in a little bit of color there too. Pick up a little bit of the green and the brown, but you only have a couple seconds to do this. You don't want to. I'm using a little bit of that brown and a little bit of the green. Just to here and there a little bit, just to kind of mix those colors around. Then I'm going to take my brush and just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Have a good time with this. Do not fret. Do not worry. Rinse off your brush. Rinse off your brush. Dry it off on the sponge so that it's only damp, and then smooth it down. But after about a few minutes, that's all you have, and then you have to just let it go and say, all right, that's it. Woo, that's it. I'm just done. Now you have to be done. Now we're done, 100% done. Do not go back in here anymore now. You only have a couple minutes to work on this, and then you have to really let it go and just let it dry, because if you keep going over it and over it and over it, it'll ruin it, actually. So just let it be. Once you see that it's sort of, I just try to dry up any puddles at the bottom here on the bottom of the painting. And then I just go back over again and smooth that out a little bit. That's it. That's all we have to do. Now I'm going to come back in about 5 or 10 minutes because I'm going to use a blow dryer to blow dry this off. But if you want, you can let this dry naturally for like an hour or two. Maybe after 2 hours, it'll be fine. Or maybe even an hour. You have to test it out. But I think you're better off letting this dry 100%, then coming back in and working. If you really want to push the boundaries of your art and get really excited and say, you know what, I'm going to test things out. I can always do another painting, you know, tomorrow or the next day. So you don't have to worry. It's not like you're creating a disaster or anything like that. You could try this same painting 3, 4, 5 different times. What you could do is try to start back in and start doing your boat and your details here when the paper's damp and not quite 100% dry. But if you're just starting out and you've only been painting a couple months or, 3 or 4 months or something, and you're really kind of tentative, that's when you don't worry about it. You just let this dry 100%, whether by blow drying it or letting it dry sitting in a room for a couple hours until it's 100% dry, then you're fine. Then you can go back in and you can do your boat details. And we're going to do that now. We're going to come back in 5-10 minutes after I blow dry this, get it dry enough that I can go back in and start doing the boat colors. Okay, so we're going to work on the boat next with the reflections, and we'll be 100% done. Okay, so again, we're having fun here. That's the key. Do not worry. Do not stress. Have fun with this. And again, if you have to do this 5, 6, 7 times, this painting, do it that many times until you feel happy with it and you say, wow, I've got it. I kind of did this painting, and maybe I did it 5, 6, 7 times, but I get it now, and I've got it, and it looks really good. So if you try it the first time and it comes out terrible, don't worry about it. Give it another 2, 3 times, and you'll see each time you do it, you're going to get more used to the colors, more used to the process, and you will actually get better and better each time you create this composition. So again, don't worry about it. But I'm going to take a quick break, get the blow dryer, dry this off, and I'll come back in and, work on this again within like 5, 10 minutes, okay? All right. I'll be back in just a second. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you really are having a good time with this video, hit the subscribe button below on the right-hand side. Don't lose track of me. If you're having fun on my channel and you really enjoy it, we cover all the details here of watercolor. I cover the same methods and techniques week after week, month after month, and year after year. So if you're painting here on a weekly basis, you will learn watercolor. Absolutely, you will learn the basic, rock-solid methods and techniques you need in watercolor to create beautiful paintings. So it's just a matter of you coming back week after week and month after month and even year after year. But at least if you stick it out 1 year, working with me here, working with all of us for, half an hour every weekend, or however much time you can invest, you're going to see your paintings get much better as you go. So don't worry. We're going to, again, continue with our game plan here. The game plan is let this dry. 100% if you just started out with your watercolor painting. But if you've been painting a while, maybe you've been painting a year or 6 months, you might say, you know what, Chris, I'm going to go back in there and do this while it's still damp. I think I'll get a better result. Be careful, though, because when you go back into damp paper, you know the bad results that can sometimes happen. The paint just goes, and it makes a terrible mess. So don't let yourself fall into that habit of going in when it's too soon. Let this dry almost till it's 100% dry, and then go back in and work. Eventually, after, it does take a couple years, I have to admit. So don't ever get frustrated with watercolor. Have a good time. Enjoy the journey. It does take time to learn watercolor. It's not an easy medium, but you'll be satisfied and happy that you kind of stuck with it, because you have to realize it's a feel thing. You have to really work a lot with watercolors to kind of get that timing down. That timing is really everything with watercolors. So if you go in too quick here, your paint's going to just go and you're going to make a giant mess. But if you let this dry 100%, you're going to get a really good result. And then if you even want to get a really intense, exciting result, you've got to learn how to go in at just the right time between when it dries 100% while it's still damp. So if you can go in when it's a little bit damp, but without having it cause problems, that's where the key is, right there. So you have to learn that spot, that perfect little spot, to go back in at the perfect time, okay? And that's some of you I know are saying, Chris, I know what you're talking about. So, all right, let's have fun. Again, let me come back in 5, 10 minutes. Let me dry this off for the most part, 90%, and it'll be a little bit damp, but I'm going to go with the safe route, get it dry, and then come back in and work. Okay? All right, so give me a second, and I'll be right back. All right, we are back in business, and like I said, I took the blow dryer and I dried off the my watercolor paper here with the first wash, the first glazing that we did. So we're using the glazing technique, incidentally. Don't forget, we're going to always talk about here on my channel the glazing technique and the alla prima technique. So this is the glazing technique. Essentially, that's getting your whole paper on your first glazing, a light wash over the whole painting. Let that dry 100%, and then you go back in and you do your darker washes over the top. And that's the glazing technique for the most part. And then our alla prima method of painting, which we use a lot too as well. Probably most of the time we're using the alla prima method. And that's basically when you take your painting and you just basically start out in one area, usually with the dark paints, and you just start working from there, and you work the rest of your painting out from there. So you're not really doing that first wash of watercolor paint on the top of your paper. So let's get back into it here. So we let I use the blow dryer. It's pretty much quite a bit dry. It does have a little bit of a buckle in it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it does have a little bit of a buckle or a bubble to it. But I can work with that. That's not a big deal. Like I said, most it's really dry to the touch, which is the key. And then let's get started right away. Let's get, we'll use our round brush here. I'm going to use, actually, let me use the, let's use the Prang Oval 16. And then I'm just going to go in and we'll start using our colors right here. We already pre-mixed everything, so we don't need to worry. Let's just go in, we'll get our brownish red sail color. And then we'll just start getting our sails in. And we already, again, we have our sails that we have drawn in with our drawing, our pencil drawing. And if you need to, again, if you need to trace, do not feel embarrassed at all. If you're just starting out and you don't know how to draw, by all means, you pick up some of that acetate plastic, which I showed you early in the video. Use that so that this way you can kind of create some beautiful paintings to start with, and you don't have to worry and kind of like think to yourself, you can't create some really nice paintings to start with. Get some tracing going on. I use tracing still in my career as a watercolor artist. Sometimes people ask me to create a painting for their business or some kind of special art that I haven't created before, that I'm not familiar with, like a certain subject matter, let's say. I might use tracing to help me create my painting quicker and better, and so they don't have to waste, my time or my client's time. If someone's hiring me to do something, I need to do it quickly and get it done and get them the product. So I'm just saying, as an artist, professional artist, you have to think that way. Like, you got to get the best result you can, whatever way you have to do it. So sometimes you have to kind of think of quick methods to get things done fast, and that's how you do it. You get in there, you use some tracing paper if you have to, and then you're going to be much happier. All right, so now I'm doing my sails on my boat, and this is looking pretty good. And I'll go over and do this sail here. And again, if you can do happy strokes like that, it's going to look like a happier painting. There we go. Look how happy that looks. Sometimes if you get too happy with your brush strokes, that could be a problem. Get a little bit of tissue or paper towel if you go over an area you don't want to, and then blot it up. There we go. That works. That works. A couple of spots here. A little bit of splashing never hurt. Looks good. Okay. Now we are going to do the actual wood boat, the hull of the boat, and that's the bow, and we'll work our way down to the stern this way. Looking good, looks good. Happy, happy, happy. Have a happy time painting your paintings here. Do not fuss around. Get things going, get it good. All right, that looks good. Then we're going to take our reflection color, which might be a little bit of the green and brown, that we're going to get into the water. Now you're going to do some scribbly looking lines here. You don't want to, you want to have a reflection look. So reflections are simple. Just kind of do like a wavy look like this. But be careful that you don't go too far one way or the other. You want to have your reflections like this. Leave some white paper in there, maybe. That. Okay. And then this sail over here, like that. And then this sail over here is larger, so you're going to have a little larger of a sail here, like that. Like that. Splash on a little bit of water, maybe. See how that looks. Like that. Okay, we're almost there. We'll get a little more brown here for the boat, the cabin here on the cabin section. Okay, and then we have a little bit of some fine detail, but you don't have to get too much worried about the details here. Just try to get some. I think that looks fine and good. Then you're going to take some of that blue, and we're going to just do some distant hills over here in the ocean. Okay. Some distant mountains here. Give them a little bit of some wavy kind of feel. Like that. And maybe the same thing over here. Maybe a little bit of a mountain range coming down into the water here. Like that. I'll blot that up like that. I'd rather have that like, looks like ocean. That looks like the deep ocean kind of going out there. So there's some area where you can go out and go into the deep ocean there. Right here, we want to leave a little bit of spots here and there so you can feel like you're going out into the deep ocean. And this might be a harbor here that we're in right here where the boat is. And I think you can kind of see that's a pretty simple rendition of a really beautiful boat. You know, maybe you might feel like you need to add a little more volume to some of the sails. It's possible. I think that looks pretty good. I wanted to add a little more to this one there. Then you can do some rigging, which is your fine lines with you. You have this. This is fine. You can mix a little bit of green and brown for your rigging lines. You want to make them light though. So you might want to dry off a little bit of your brush on a paper towel or tissue first so you don't make the lines too dark. So you take off some paint off your brush on a tissue or a paper towel. And then you can do some nice free swoops up there like that. Over here there's one like that. So you get some rigging lines here like this. There's another one over here like that. There's another one there like that. Then we have a small flag at the top here on this mast. And then there's a little bit more of a mast point there, where the top of the mast is, that goes beyond the sail. You could even do a couple more details here. You might do a couple, maybe some people on the boat. You can do a couple little shoulders and heads to indicate that there's some people on the boat. They're working here. They have they're working on getting the sails maybe unfurled. They're going to do some sailing. Maybe they're just getting started on their voyage here. You can add a little more dark paint here to the bottom of the hull here like that. So you can do a little bit of touching up here, but you don't want to do too much touching up and then go overboard with too many details or make the boat look a little bit overworked in a sense. You want to kind of have a good solid feel for the overall rendition of this. So I'm going to do one darker line here. I think that needs to, sometimes too you could use a ruler and put it across. If you need to get an exact line maybe that you need to get, you can also use a ruler and then use the paintbrush along with the ruler like that. That could work sometimes good. But I think we have a good feel here for this painting. If anything, I would say we could use this smaller 5/8 inch watercolor brush that we have with our Princeton Art and Brush Company. We could take this and actually maybe add a little bit of that green. And then maybe we just want to do a little bit of some water, kind of some water like this. In the foreground here, like this. That gives you that kind of choppy feel for the water. And then, so that's for the foreground here. You can do that while it's dark here, like so. That looks good, doing it darker at the bottom of the painting. So you might want to make this all dark at the very bottom, kind of like a base to the bottom of the water here that you have. Then you go back in and get a little bit of the choppy bit of choppiness of the water. And then as you go forward, you make it lighter. You don't want to make it dark. Keep the darker washes closest to you here, right at the bottom of your painting, darker. Then you go in, and this is just an extra little bit of oomph for your painting if you want to kind of give it a little extra. And then you do lighter washes here, like that, or lighter little bits of like this. And then you leave it just plain water up here with no So does that make sense? We do darker bits of that choppiness here. Having fun, you can kind of see I'm just doing the wave action, which is, you know, kind of like up and down like this. And then over here you leave this, you're not going to see all these details over here in the distance. So this you leave plain paper. You just want to do your choppy waves right here at the bottom, and you want to make them darker. Like that. And that is it. The main thing is not to go too overboard with too many details or going and overworking this. Let's not overwork this. Like that. I think that's perfect, okay? So thank you so much for coming by, painting along with me. We did a beautiful painting here. Really, we didn't work a tremendous amount of time, like 2-3 hours. We got this done in like an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes at most, probably. And I did also a lot of kind of like explaining of things. You could do this painting probably a lot quicker, probably within half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour at most. You can get this painting done once you kind of have the format of how you're doing it. You know, I do cover all the minute details of everything because I want you to have that so you can actually write it down if you have to, or practice it over and over quite a few times, and then you kind of really get the swing of it. But in any case, the main thing is I want you to have good watercolor paintings, have fun with your watercolor paintings. Don't stress over it. It's just a matter of repeating it over and over again until they just look better and better each time, and that's all it is. Every time you go in and do a new painting, it's going to look better each time you do it, and you'll learn something new each time too. Every time you paint a painting, you'll learn a little something new, maybe just one thing, or you might learn the same thing over and over for about 5 or 6 times, and then you'll say, oh wow, I really got that. I really understand that part of watercolor where, you know, I have to make sure I let the paper dry first. I can't go back in and start painting too quickly, or otherwise it gets really, you know, unpleasant looking, the washes and things like that. So you'll learn all these things and you'll get better and better at your watercolor paintings. I promise you. Stick here with my channel. Stick with me. Stick with all of us here, actually. Make comments in the comment section if you like. Ask questions, and I will cover your questions about techniques and things like that in future videos. I think I tried to cover a few questions in this video, and I'll try to always answer a few questions here and there in every video that I do so that everyone kind of understands the process really well. So if you have questions, if you're leaving me questions in the comments section, I will put those answers right into the videos here as we're going so that everybody's happy. We're doing videos and we're answering questions at the same time. So until we get together again to paint, happy painting, enjoy the process, everyone, and we'll see you on the next video, okay? Bye-bye.